Good afternoon, and I'd like to emphasize the word good because I think at this stage of a presidential election, everything is going very well. We have identified some issues across the county that's been immediately resolved. I, again, very pleased to report a very successful presidential election to this point. We are experiencing a very heavy turnout in different areas throughout the county. I do want to remind the media and the public that we did go through a major precinct consolidation and polling location consolidation. So I think the turnout, what we're seeing in those locations, is a product of that consolidation. The machines and equipment that we deployed for this election is working as designed. We are expediting voters at a very high rate. At one polling location voted almost 1,000 voters by noon. And I think the new concept that we have, any line, any time, coupled with the technologies that we deploy at our polling location, with the electronic poll books, coupled with the machines where we can share those resources within a polling location, is paying huge dividends. And again, I'm very pleased to report a very positive election at this time. We are getting reports of a large number of provisional ballots in other areas of the state, not necessarily here in Montgomery County at this point. Of course, we'll know that number later on this evening once we collect all the supplies back from the precincts. I also heard an inaccurate report that the Montgomery County, Dayton area is experiencing machine problems. I will tell you that is inaccurate. Our machines are operational. They're, again, going as designed. We deploy over 2,500 machines across Montgomery County. We had very few problems. In most cases, the machines were not properly set up by the poll workers, and we simply deployed a troubleshooter, identified those problems, fixed them, and they are serving the citizens of Montgomery County very well. Again, from a turnout perspective, I still believe we're going to be around the 71–72% turnout when things are all said and done. We are voting folks here in the Board of Elections who fall in the provisional category who did not notify the Board of Elections of their change of address. We've had about 300 voters here at the Board of Elections office, and again, from a presidential election standpoint, we've had very little problems across the county, and that's a good thing for a presidential election. I do want to talk about tabulation again because I think it's important to understand the process. The more people that vote on paper tonight, the longer the process will be in terms of tabulation. I still expect to have approximately 95% of the count completed by midnight. And then again, it's a laborious, extensive process to go through. We're required to reconcile, account for all the ballots, inspect those ballots before we scan them. So it will take some time. Just have some patience. And again, our emphasis is on accuracy, not speed. And we'll make sure that whatever report that we release to the public, that it will be accurate, and we'll do it as quickly as possible, but again, with emphasis on accuracy. With that, I'll open it up for any questions that the media might have.
The 71–72%, that's the registered voters have already voted, or you suspect them tonight?
That 71–72% will be a total turnout. That will include the 85,000 early votes that we received through either absentee or in person. That will again equate to about 195,000 people casting their ballots across Montgomery County in our 360 precincts.
Any idea how that compares to 2008's presidential election?
Well, we had about 279,000 people vote in 2008. I expect a little bit less than that. However, the percentage will be very similar because we've lost some population here in Montgomery County, unfortunately. And then we did a lot of effort over the last 4 years in cleaning up our voter rolls and our roster. So I think even though we won't have as many people, the percentage because of that will stay about the same.
And speaking about paper ballots, where are those coming from for you to be able to tabulate those tonight?
They'll be coming from all the different precincts. We're required to provide paper backup, paper ballots to all of our precincts through a League of Women Voter lawsuit that was settled with the Secretary of State. And then, of course, also the provisional ballots are actually voted on paper as well. Those provisional ballots will not be counted tonight. We have a 10-day canvass period in Ohio that we go through and determine the eligibility of those ballots, and those ballots will be included in the official final. The paper ballots that we'll be processing tonight are either situations where voters are asking to vote on paper, or situations where there's more than a 20-minute wait, and then we'll offer that paper ballot option to voters if machines are not available. It's important to note that we still need to check in the voter prior to them getting a paper ballot or a machine. And what we're witnessing with our any line, any time concept that we're deploying, which we cannot be more pleased with at this point, the voter still needs to be checked in, and then the machine, the wait time is not necessarily the machine, it's that bottleneck and the check-in process. And by all reports, outside maybe of a few isolated situations, the wait time is still less than 30 minutes in a very high majority of our locations. And again, during the peak voting times, I think that's very acceptable and not bad considering the volume of voters that we're experiencing at this point.
In the earlier 10 o'clock press conference, you had said that the board had issued 2 warnings against observers. Have you had any more warnings issued?
We have a lot of observers across the county from, you know, the highest number, I think we had 7 observers in one precinct. We are getting some complaints from voters that's intimidating. We're addressing those. The issues that we've issued, the reason we issued the warning is because we had multiple complaints. We followed up with those individuals, and they're following the directive and our direction, and they're in compliance with the orders of the Secretary of State through that directive. So right now we're not issuing any more warnings. They understand the interpretation of the directive, and they're working with us, and we're trying to balance again what their rights are as observers, and then of course maintaining voter confidence without having any intimidation issues.
And can you also go over for the viewers who may not understand why there are attorneys present at some of these precincts?
Well, they may be attorneys, but they're there as observers. They have to file proper paperwork in a timely fashion. They have to represent either a candidate or issue committee. They have filed the proper paperwork, and under law have the right to be there. It's not a specific attorney or not issue. They just fall into the observer category.
What would you say people have to wait? I mean, you said mostly it's 30 minutes or less. We've got some places they say maybe an hour or more, or towards an hour and a half. People might have to wait in line, especially as they come off work. You know, it might be longer lines.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, the polls close at 7:30, and now at this point we're going to have probably one more time that's going to be really heavy voting, and that's going to be after work, usually between the 5 o'clock to 6:15, 6:30 time period, and those wait times could increase if the volume of voters they show up at one time. Obviously, we ask for their patience, and any voter in line at the close of polls at 7:30, they will be voted no matter how long it takes. If it takes 9 o'clock, 9:30 to process those voters, we're prepared to do that, and we will do that. So as long as they're in line at 7:30, we'll process them.
Just one more. I know you had a lot of early voters. Is that helping with today's smooth process?
Well, over the last 4 years, we've made many decisions. We used 2008 as a benchmark. Extended hours, absentee voting played a heavy part of that decision process in terms of if we have so many voters vote early, can we consolidate these precincts? And of course, as we made those decisions, we had weekend voting, we had extended hours, and of course we sent an application out as a county in both 2008 and 2010. Of course, there was a lot of controversy with weekend voting and extended hours. We ended up having the last weekend. We had some extended hours during the week as well, and we surpassed the 2008 numbers in terms of early voting and absentee. So that was a positive thing. I think that is helping us alleviate the stress today, even though some wait times may exceed the half-hour point. But overall, considering the technology and deployment that we made, I'm very pleased again with the process of election up to this point.